Bambro back with some Grand Tactician Civil War. We've got a Union campaign going here in the 1.07 beta. Okay, what do we got going on here? We're in September 1861. There have been a few battles thus far in the campaign. In the last episode, I talked a little bit about some economic things that I was doing, and I want to revisit one of them real quickly, just to make sure it's clear what I'm doing with this. This isn't really an economic thing as much as just an experiment, but I built a lumber mill up here at Buffalo, and then I put one fleet, created a fleet here at Buffalo as well. And the idea is, this is a test. I don't know if this is going to work. Someone had a good idea, and I want to see if it is true. The idea is, if we have local wood oversupply, does that make shipbuilding cheaper? And that is building upon something that was seen in the last campaign as CSA, when there was a period when I could build ships much cheaper in Biloxi than I could anywhere else. And someone noticed that there is a lumber mill right next to Biloxi, and maybe that was why. And so I'm trying to replicate that and see if that explains. And if so, then that's a pretty good thing to know, that you can plop a lumber mill next to a port and build ships cheaper there. And I think that was all pretty clearly spelled out in the last episode. The confusing bit, though, might be, what is this fleet for? Okay. Now, it's up here in Buffalo, right? It's not on the rivers. I mean, you can get to the rivers from here. There's canals that connect the Great Lakes to the Ohio and the Mississippi. And likewise, you can also sail ships, I think, all the way out. Well, maybe not. I don't know if you can get ships out to sea by sailing them from the Great Lakes to the ocean. I mean, you can in real life, but the portion where that happens is off the map up in Canada. But just to be clear, I am not... All that fleet is there for is I want to have this fleet selected. I'm not building ships into this fleet, right? Here, like this. I'm still building them in harbor for ships to go into the general pool, from where they can go pretty much anywhere else. I just want this Buffalo located fleet to be selected for the pricing, which is what I saw in the previous campaign. When I was getting those cheap prices in Biloxi, I had a Biloxi based fleet selected here. Anyway, I just wanted to clear that up in case that wasn't obvious before. All right, so what's going on in the various theaters? We had moved Lyon's Missouri Army over here closer to the Confederate Army that was here kind of on the north side of the river near Jefferson City. And apparently that army did retreat. We had the camera focused elsewhere. There wasn't a battle. So, and I don't see any spots where another supply depot is building, which is kind of a reliable way to get a locator on an army that's out of vision. He probably just came right back down here to Rolla, is what I would imagine. There is a supply depot here, which was originally ours, so I'm thinking, let's head on down here and grab this supply depot. I'm going to place Lion in scout mode. I don't use scout mode that much anymore. I used to use it a lot. Because an army in scouting mode has a greatly decreased, meaning deteriorated, increased would be the better word, time to reinforce other armies. Which kind of makes sense. If the army is in a scouting stance, it's spread out to cover more area, get more eyes out. It's kind of dispersed. So it takes time to kind of concentrate everybody again to go, march to reinforce in a battle. However, the Missouri Army's out here by themselves. Right? There is no one to reinforce. So I don't think it hurts anything for them to kind of stay in scouting mode all the time and help improve intel a little bit. I don't know if that's going to do very much for the simple reason that Lyon doesn't have any cavalry. I've got some recruiting for him over in Indiana, but it's still going to be, I think, several weeks before those guys even form up in Indiana, let alone transfer over here. So at the moment, he doesn't have any cav. Got some coming, but he doesn't have them yet. So we'll put him in scouting mode. And then let's just have him come on down here to Rolla. Now, at some point, that army might get plussed up, right? Last we saw, we've been seeing they're only still around 2,600. But they may have more troops coming, and, again, as stated several times, we don't know where this army is. This is getting to be a very old locator report, over 2 months old now. It's time late. And, well, if we run into a situation where Lyon is heavily outnumbered, well, I'll just withdraw it. It's not a disaster if that happens. Okay, let's come on down to about here. I don't think he needs the railroad thingy. Right. Okay, Grant's up to green readiness, and he doesn't have both of his cav brigades, but I think he's got one of them. Yeah. I think it's ready. I think it's time for Grant to go do something. And I think I'm going to stick with the earlier plan of I'm going to bring him down this way and start working on these forts from east to west. The other way I could do that is bring him down the river to around Cairo and then march him down this way and start working on Fort Hyman and go west to east. But I don't want to put myself in a situation where I don't want to put Grant in a situation where he's got these forts and between him and Polk. Because at some point it's a pretty typical thing for Polk to start moving and he just runs up here and takes Louisville or runs around up here in the northern states and just makes a general nuisance of himself. At least for now, I'm going to move Grant to Clarksville. Relative movement is fine. Okay. And just like the Missouri Army, I don't see any reason why Grant shouldn't be in scout mode as well. He's not going to be... This corps is not still Army, but this force is not going to be reinforcing anybody for a long time. Okay. Appalachians. Same sort of thing. I've already placed Appalachian Army in scout mode. Although there is more, I could see scenarios where McClellan might be reinforcing these armies over here. However, I think he's going to be moving west. And so I've got him in scout mode, and he's got just a couple more brigades to come down. Yeah, he's got 2 more infantry brigades and a cav coming. The cav just came available. And then he is going to move over here to where I think we don't see him at the, well, maybe he's moved. Or maybe time just needs to advance. And I think that there is a Confederate army right around here, which our scouts should have vision on. Maybe not. I think maybe he's moved. Athens is Union again. Point Pleasant is Confederate, but it kind of would be because it's in it's in Virginia, pretty close to Charleston. Well, if Garnett has moved, that's okay, because I think McClellan should come over here anyway to Point Pleasant and then move down this way toward Charleston, Virginia. And if the Confederacy has conveniently built a supply depot for us here to support that effort, that is hunky-dory. That's just fine. Okay, so McClellan will be moving soon. We've got this Potomac-Chesapeake picket line pretty much in place now. And yeah, all these battle radius, combat radius for these fleets, they overlap very nicely, very nicely. So I don't think that a waterborne army is going to be able to get up in here without crossing into the combat radius of one of these fleets, which was the whole idea. We've also got our, scouts in place. We've got one up as far as the Rappahannock for York, as far as they can go, to help provide a little vision around here. And then we've got one gunboat just parked right off of Richmond. Hey Jeff Davis, what are you gonna do about that? Actually, I bet. Let's see if he can get over here. Maybe he can get close enough to actually see the Army of the Shenandoah. I think he can only go up this far. Can he go up this far? No. Yeah, that's as far as he can go, right there. You can kind of see that. See where see right there where there's kind of a difference in the shoreline. Right there is as far navigable as this river gets. I thought about, as long as they're here anyway, putting all of these little gunboats in blockade mode just to add to what the Virginia blockade squadron is already doing. And I decided not to do that. And the reason for it is the way that the fleet's raid mechanic works. Oh, obviously I can't show it here, but of the three stances, you have blockade, patrol, and raid. Okay, and what raid is somewhat not entirely intuitively named. Raid is not like commerce raiding. Raid is specifically an anti-blockade fleet stance. The tooltip here, the fleet operates opportunistically against smaller detachments of ships within enemy blockading fleets. Will automatically engage any blockading fleets within its command radius. Right. So basically, if this James River Squadron, right now it's in blockade mode, which is just silly. Okay, so it's blockading Hampton, big deal. But if this James River Squadron, or any other fleet which forms here at Gosport, if it switches into raid mode, it's just going to automatically head for a blockade fleet. Now, the closest one is the Virginia blockade, and that's probably what it would hit. But any other fleet that happens to go into kind of raid mode in this area, I don't want them to go into raid mode and then automatically just, head right toward one of our little gunboats. So that's why I'm leaving them not in blockade mode. And in fact, I'm going to go one step further. And I'm going to put them in defensive. As long as they're in offensive, they're going to move to reinforce a battle. Which, again, if a Confederate fleet goes into raid mode and comes up here and hits the Virginia blockade fleet, that will generate a battle, and then all these guys, if they're in offensive mode, will go to reinforce that battle. And one or two of them might get sunk, which again would not be a huge disaster, but it'll be a pain in the butt putting them all back in position. So really I'm kind of doing all this for future potential player QOL rather than any kind of like in-game tactical reason. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, and I think they'll still fire at any waterborne army that comes within their combat ranges. So that's fine too. As a matter of fact, I guess I'm going to do the same thing with these guys up here. No, I'm going to leave them. I don't think firing at a waterborne army, as far as I could see on the rivers where this has occurred, I don't think that generates a, quote, battle, unquote. So I don't. So if somebody comes up here and gets engaged by one of these pickets, I don't think it's going to pull all the other ones out of position. I don't think it is. Okay, and what does that leave? Well, we have a kind of a trench warfare thing going on up here. It's not really Winchester, it's Harper's Ferry. Jubal Early is now in command of the Army of the Shenandoah. Yeah, this is the Army of the Shenandoah up here. It's the Army of the Potomac, Confederate Army of the Potomac, that is probably here at this supply depot. But our Potomac Army is in a siege situation against Jubal Early's Army of the Shenandoah, who had come up here and grabbed Harper's Ferry. Went right on through Winchester, which is, the named city. Actually, there's a little bar there. I think it's just falling back down after Early walked through. Anyway, McDowell's army is significantly larger than Early's. However, Early's actually got a couple of more guns, but the big thing is, because we are in Virginia, a Confederate state, home territory for them, their morale is much higher, right? Because they don't have the fighting spirit nerf that we do, since we're in enemy territory. Therefore, all their guys are eager. Well, most. Some of them are just stable. And all of our guys are confident, which is 2 levels. I think it goes eager is best, and then determined, and then confident, and then stable. I forget the exact number percentages, but anyway, because of that, this is a dead even siege, despite the fact that we almost, not quite, but almost outnumber them 2-1. And for that reason, I think it is in our interest to convert this into a tactical battle by choosing the assault option. So in we go. As we are treated to Braxton Bragg's thoughts on Nathan Bedford Forrest there. Forrest remains kind of a controversial figure today. And I'm being quiet because I don't want to get in the middle of it. Okay. One thing I've noticed is, you're on the campaign map and the player chooses to, quote, assault, unquote. And yet it seems pretty consistent that it generates giving the player a defensive situation, which is another good reason to kind of use the defensive stance on the campaign map. I just feel like it gives sometimes a little bit better control over options and reinforcements and engineering points. I've talked about that before. Right, where is the objective? They've made them pretty big and nice to find. They're easier to see on these paper maps now, zoomed out. Lots of wide open ground here. Where's the Confederate entry point? Where is the Confederate entry point? I don't see. There it is. Yeah. All right, so this looks pretty obvious, right? Right down this pike, through town, come straight down this road to the objective. Can also, however, come down this road and kind of come at it this way. That would be extremely reasonable. I guess there's potential. There's not really any obvious road routes. I mean, one could take the Millwood pike down this way and then kind of come at it from this direction. That doesn't look as convincing for the AI to do as just straight down this road, or potentially come down this road and then this way. Got 15 engineering points, so we can set up a little bit of fortifications in the area. Do we have any cav yet? I think I do. Yeah, Runyon and Custer there. There's Custer in charge of the Wolverines, and yes, I used Michigan troops to form that cav unit. I think I did. Well, we're just going to put the cav right up here. Go up and scout at the beginning. Cannot actually put scouts out because he's so small. Yeah, as mentioned in an earlier episode, these early game cavalry brigades are so small that they're not eligible to put scouts out. My thought on it, okay, that's fine. It's kind of like skirmishers too, right? A brigade has to be a minimum size before it can put skirms out as well. And that's reasonable enough. I don't have a huge quibble with that. But my thought is, if the brigade is small enough that it cannot put out scouts, then it's small enough that it's practically just a scout unit itself. And therefore, I think it would be reasonable if these small 500 or less cav brigades had as much vision as a larger brigade with scouts out. That's my thoughts on that. Okay, well, I need to set up a defensive position of some type here, and I think what I'm going to do is zoom in here and look a little bit. Yeah, I think I'm going to use some breastworks kind of across here in the open ground, facing the kind of obvious routes that the rebels are likely to take, right? And then if they flank us, well, then we have these creeks and woods on either side for cover and to complicate their movements. And I've talked about this in previous series, but I know there's probably lots of people watching who may not have seen those. So, creeks. Let me talk a little bit about creeks. And kind of my mantra is, creeks are rattlesnakes. Don't like them. I generally try to keep my guys away from them in situations where they're going to be under fire, right? There's creeks everywhere. Sometimes you have to cross them during maneuvers, But along this creek, I mean, there's pluses and minuses. We can put a unit, just a. Right? There is some cover, right? And I don't think that the game, the visuals here maybe don't fully do justice to this terrain immediately on either side of a creek visually. The idea is that it's marshy, it's boggy, and there's a lot of built up undergrowth. And the good part of that is that it provides cover. Okay, so that's good. However, it's also very, very fatigue and cohesion disruptive terrain, right? It just bogs the troops down trying to get across. It slows them down and tires them out, and the unit gets disorganized. And cohesion and fatigue themselves directly do not drop morale. However, they do make the unit more vulnerable to other factors which do drop morale, such as getting shot at or getting flanked, right? If a unit has got low fatigue and cohesion, it's more vulnerable to those things tanking their morale quickly than otherwise. In addition, this cover bonus, you see you get this little yellow in cover thing right here. The cover bonus for this creek underbrush along the banks is actually the lowest possible cover modifier there is. It's way lower than parapets, breastworks, stone walls, fences, even woods are better than creek. So this cover benefit, it's there, right? It's better than standing in open ground, but it is lower than any other type of cover. I think it's 15%. Whereas even just plain forest without any other cover is 20%, and the others kind of go up from there. Meanwhile, in order to be close enough to a creek to get the cover bonus, you're close enough to the creek to be in the creek terrain, and you're suffering those fatigue and cohesion negatives, which is okay as long as the brigade is not moving at all, right? Stays completely stationary. But if it moves at all from its position, right, to flank, to retreat, whatever, it's going to be slow, and that fatigue and cohesion is going to start tanking. All right, I have spent enough time talking about that. So for all those reasons, when I see a creek, I don't see that as, ooh, my guys get cover. I see that as, okay, well, if the enemy has to cross that to get to my position during his attack, that is good for me. It's going to lower his fatigue and cohesion. And so at a time when I'm just behind the creek, like right up in here in these woods, and I'm firing on them, and you get the idea. And then the final thing I want to mention there is I don't like creeks as cover for full brigades. I think they're pretty good for skirms because those two ideas kind of come together, right? You can have a position like right up in here, right about default skirmisher range from a creek in woods, or you can run some breastworks, whatever, you know, whatever the case is. And then you put their skirmishers out, and they do get that cover bonus, right, from the creek. And the cohesion and fatigue thing isn't nearly as big a deal for them. Matter of fact, I'm not 100% sure the game models cohesion and fatigue for skirmishers. And so you can have a skirmisher line right in on the creek. They're making their advance, and then they're taking attrition from the skirmishers. And then as that develops and the skirmishers gradually come in, and they're already weakened, and now they're having to cross the creek, and your main brigades are back here within range and shooting at them as they cross the creek. And they will get that little cover bonus, but I think that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. And in typical Brambro fashion, I have talked about that way, way longer than I intended when I started jabbering. Alright, so I'm going to set up this defensive position up in here, and I will be back. Right, I've set up the position pretty much as I described before the cut. I've got a line of breastworks across here. It's kind of refused a little bit on the flanks. I went with breastworks because I didn't have that many engineering points, and I didn't have enough engineering points to kind of set up any meaningful parapets. But I had enough for this. So that's what I've got. Division here, and a division in reserve to flex to either side if needed. And I think that'll be plenty. Kind of artillery here in the middle. Set far enough back, I think they'll have plenty of shots on all this open ground. Okay. And then I've got the 3rd division and these the 3rd brigade and these 4 divisions kind of set up on the side like this because Franklin and Sherman are going to come to their respective flanks. I'm going to extend the line, build a breastwork here and one here once time gets rolling. Why am I doing that? Well, they may be useful, but the biggest reason is because brigades get perk slot XP for building entrenchments. So I'm just getting them a little bit of extra XP toward opening their perk slot. So it's kind of a gameism. But that'll also, they could potentially be tactically useful as well. And for the same reason, I'm just going to have these reserve guys. That's why I kind of put Porter off to the, I'm going to just have them build entrenchments back here for perk slot reasons, no other reason. Okay, Reb's got some marching to do, Custer's got some scouting to do, and I will be back. Okay, it's pretty clear that they're coming down this route. They didn't take this, they didn't take a turn here, they didn't take a turn here. They're coming right down this way, right at the objective. So kind of as expected. Okay, so Johnny Reb came on down this road, and he's now setting up for his attack. What I think is kind of notable here is that he's getting a little bit of artillery fire back up in here, but he's set far enough back that he's not engaged while setting this up. And what one would often see in the past is that they would do something like this, but they would do so closer to their opponent, such that while they're trying to set this up in preparation for an advance, one wing would get engaged, and so they'd never form up their entire formation, and therefore their attack would never come off. And that's not happening here. They are setting up that preparatory formation, but far enough back that they're not being hampered in doing so. I thought that was worth bringing out. So they need to finish this up, and as soon as they start moving ahead, I'll be back. Right, so this is interesting. It's now 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and for several hours, Early has been in this formation, taking some artillery fire to the point where actually my 3-inch ordnance, what are these? 10-pounder Parrots are actually low on ball ammo. Maybe that was his object. They haven't moved yet. We've been in this position for about 4 hours. It is still a minor defeat for me because of the morale difference. However, we've got the objective, and as we found out in a battle during a previous campaign, there's no time limit, right? We could sit here for a week. So eventually the onus will be on him to attack. However long in the future that may be. So let's see what happens. I'll come back whenever something happens. Okay, it is 7 o'clock in the morning on day 2. They did not move. We got a little bit of artillery ammo back on the overnight resupply. Not all the way back up to 100%, that's for sure. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I am interested to see. We're still at minor defeat at the moment because of morale. The morales haven't changed. And actually we took some more losses primarily from overnight attrition, not from combat. Wilcox's brigade has been taking artillery fire, but he's in breastworks and laying down. He's taken not very many losses there. I double check that. Well, 43. Again, some of that attrition. I think he took probably more like 35, 36, something like that, from artillery fire. What I'm interested to see is we're going to slowly tick up here, and I want to, and maybe, so the hypothesis would be the AI is not moving because right now it sees no reason to, because it's a minor victory for them. As the objective points tick up, however, when this flips to a minor victory for us, will that then goad them into action, where he's got to do something to win? Based on a similar case like this that we saw in a previous campaign, probably not. Where we saw an enemy force sit for something like 6 days without moving. However, that was in 1.06. So this is 1.07. Let's see if that does anything. If it does not, then we're going to get a deployment zone, something like this again, and I'll just, you know, we got a lot more guys. I'll just redeploy and we'll fight them. You know, I'm not going to sit here for a week. But I am interested to see if switching from minor defeat to minor victory, if that will change their behavior. Okay. Like I said before, I'll be back when something happens. Okay, well, now it's 7 o'clock in the morning on day 3, and basically nothing has changed. However, we haven't crossed that threshold of minor victory yet either. So, another day of this. Meanwhile, though, I just got everybody building breastworks back here for perk slot XP, and most of these brigades back here now have their perk slot open. And I've even rotated some of the frontline brigades back, and they're building breastworks. And so, yeah, But so by the time we're done with the day and get up to minor victory, they'll all have their perk slots open, and we'll see what happens headed toward day 4. Maybe they'll do something today. Maybe they won't. But at least we got our perk slots done. And for the infantry brigades, I am, for most of these, I need to get him building something new. But for most of these brigades, infantry brigades, I'm going with Ace of Spade for additional cover bonus. That's what I've decided is going to be my main infantry perk for this campaign anyway. Sometimes I use others. With one exception, Sherman's brigade is equipped with Hall rifles, so I gave him sharpshooter to enhance his already significant firepower. Well, we're going to have 2 of these brigades, right? Because you don't get very many Hall rifles. So that's why he's in the red coats, so that I know exactly where he is at any moment without hunting around for him. Okay, well, I'll be back. Okay, well, this is interesting. We're on day 4, and it's about 11 o'clock in the morning. We had been in the victory condition for quite a while, and nothing was happening. So I decided, okay, fine. So I moved the reserve division on a hunter. He was over here in the midst of all these extraneous breastworks that were built for XP reasons. Everybody's perked up, by the way, by now, including the cav. It turns out that dismounted cav can also entrench, which I knew that, I'd just never done it. And so Custer built all these breastworks over here, and he got his perk too. Gave him mounted rifles. But anyway, so I moved Hunter over here, and the idea was that Hunter and Tyler's divisions would come up this way into the Confederate flank. And they would be in open ground, but so were they. As I moved Hunter over and got him over here, though, just now, here comes Johnny Reb. So somehow that, I guess he just liked that there's less brigades in his front. I don't know why, but that changed his calculus. And so here they come. All these breastworks back here. Let's get Custer mounted back up now. Since I gave him the mounted rifle perk, may as well mount him up, right? Okay, now we've got skirmishers engaging, but I don't think these brigades are going to wait. Oh, let's get all the... I had the artillery turned off rather. Let's just give them fire at will. to save ammo. Well, now they need to shoot. Let's give them all fire at will. That's fine. Let's get these skirms to help. Well, no. Let's get these skirms to fire at this brigade over here. Wilcox, you need to get up here. Get up here. Off you go. Nah, that's just a little cav unit back in there. See, now they like their chances of breaking the center, given that there were less reserves back here. I think is what I think is what changed their mind. Well, let's go ahead and have Hunter's division just advance straight across. It's going to take a while for the order to get over to him, I'm afraid. This division is less heavily engaged. I'm going to move Keys, the reserve brigade, kind of over this way to help out this right-hand division under Heinzelman. It's kind of looking like Heinzelman's going to get the brunt of this. I don't know if I needed to move this guy over onto the flank. Who is that? That's Wilcox. Wilcox is a Zouave. Therefore, he should actually have the run capability. Yeah, I got him moving a little faster. And the second brigade didn't want to. They're falling back. This particular breastwork may not wind up to be so useless after all. How are you not finding shots? Seriously? Well, he's showing that he's firing. Rotate Howard a little bit here. Get rid of that flanking debuff. Flanked debuff, rather. Okay, Hunter's division is starting to move now. That's good. Wolverines can come up here and deliver a last bit of carbine fire to finish breaking that unit. Okay, let's go ahead and pull these skirms in over here. They're about to break anyway. Howard's doing okay. He's stable. He's doing okay. Franklin's doing okay. get these skirms over here to help work on some part of what's becoming, well, other than that, let's just bring Sherman over here. Key's in slightly better shape. Let's go ahead and advance him. Leapfrogging past Schenk. Custer got broken. Well, I think that proves why Early didn't want to attack earlier. It wasn't a very advantageous situation for him. For some reason he felt like he had to. Ooh, Howard's actually... Let's just back him out. Let's just back him out. I think Franklin can advance, though. Come on, Custer. Get that guy. No? Nah. Go, Custer! You may get in trouble there with getting too close to an unbroken unit. Okay. Let's pull him back just a little bit. We're not real close to a major victory. But either way, Earl's going to have to retreat from Harper's Ferry, so it's fine. I think we got both of these broken over here. Yeah. Nope, Richardson not doing so hot there. Might be in trouble. Oh, keep firing now, Richardson. Custer needs help. Shit, they broke. Really? They weren't getting fired at anymore. Oh, he's still... Custer is still in melee for some reason. Despite those two artillery not being there anymore. Let's give him another order to back out. Just in case. Just maybe to break that in melee status. I don't know if that's going to work. Well, at least he didn't take any fire there and take losses in morale. I'm kind of disappointed in Richardson's guys. I guess they were too small and, well, oh, he just broke. Yeah, this cav is exhausted. And we're at the end anyway. Okay, well, kind of an odd battle, but came out with a minor federal victory. Early's going to have to retreat back down south. And the casualties were not that uneven. 2,100 out of 12,000 for Early. We took almost 1,500 casualties ourselves. A fair number of those were attrition casualties. We had the larger army. And therefore, our just as a percentage, our attrition losses were higher than the Confederates as well. Probably about 300 of that is non-combat losses, and perhaps 100 or so of theirs. Okay. Click that twice. So there wound up being a battle, even though we had to go to, I think that was day 4, before Jubal Early decided to attack. Yeah. Don't have a message here that Richardson got defamed. And whatever else, we got all the brigades in this army perk slotted. Except for the artillery. But all the infantry and cav. Okay, so on this in battle message you get, I think this is a new feature down here at the bottom. 17 enemy soldiers have been captured and taken to our POW camps. Whereas normally it was, I don't know, up here it says 16 captured. That seemed clear enough to me before. Although maybe this is confirming that they actually went to the POW camps. The small case POW camps, lowercase. So if one doesn't have any POW camps, I wonder what this line says, if it's there at all, if it's kind of automatic parole because there are no camps. Could test that by removing our POW camp, except can't remove the POW camp. I don't think. I think once they're built, I've never seen an option to dismantle or abandon or anything like that, the way one can do with a supply depot. Okay, Bait loses face. That's a Confederate. So none of our guys got defamed. That's good. Maybe defamed doesn't count during the... Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. I think I've had commanders defamed due to routes during the retreat phase before, so I don't think that's it. In any case, I think that will do for this episode. If you like what we're doing with the channel, if you like the content, then leave a like, leave a comment, maybe even subscribe if that strikes your fancy. If you're new to the channel, new to the series, and want to catch up on the other episodes that have occurred in this series, then I'm linking a playlist here. At any rate, thank you very, very much for watching. I appreciate it.